The Widow, episode '06. A year after the death of her beloved Ricardo, Gabriella, the widow, lives a solitary life, surrounded by memories and grief. Her emotional fortress, built on sadness, begins to crumble with the arrival of Daniel, a kind and mysterious man who watches her from afar. But the past returns with force. An anonymous note containing a photograph of Ricardo with another woman appears out of nowhere. Gabriella feels the ground tremble beneath her feet. Did her beloved deceive her? Is Daniel just another illusion or the key to a new life? The truth, so close, is hidden in a secret that could destroy everything. And Ricardo's brother, full of hate and revenge, watches everything, ready to act. It was a dark, starry night, the kind of night Gabriella loved, but which now only brought her painful memories. A year had passed since the death of Ricardo, her beloved. A year of solitude, a year of silence, a year of tears that dried on her face, leaving a trail of sadness. Gabriella lived in a large, old house, full of dark corners and shadows that seemed to move on their own. Every piece of furniture, every painting, every book was a memory, a piece of a happy past that now hurt like an open wound. She felt like a flower plucked from the garden, left to dry in a vase without water. Suddenly, a slight noise, almost imperceptible. Gabriella took a deep breath, her heart pounding like a bird trapped in a cage. Was it a rat or something worse? She got up carefully, each step echoing in the silent house, and followed the sound. That's when she saw a white envelope, startling her. Her body trembled as her fingers touched the delicate paper. An anonymous note. No one would ever send her a letter. Except, with trembling hands, she opened the envelope and found a photograph. It was Ricardo, the radiant and life-filled face she loved so much. But beside him, a strange woman, beautiful and smiling at the camera. The smile was so real, so sincere, that Gabriella felt a shock run through her entire body. The image hit her like a punch in the stomach, as brutal and unexpected as the note itself. Had Ricardo deceived her? Was that happy smile for another woman? The question hammered in her head like an insistent bell on a Sunday. Gabriella felt dizzy, her breathing becoming shallow. She fell to her knees, surrounded by a whirlwind of emotions. Anger, disappointment, and a deep pain that left her powerless. That note wasn't simply a piece of paper, it was a bomb exploding in her dreams, in her memories, in her own identity. In the midst of her desolation, a new presence made itself felt. Daniel, a man with eyes as mysterious as the night sky and a kind smile, watched her from afar. He had been leaving small flowers at her door, discreet signs of his admiration. But Gabriella was cold, her heart closed like a steel vault. She couldn't allow herself to feel anything. She still had to deal with Ricardo's recent betrayal, a man who claimed to love her until eternity, but at some point either fell in love with someone else or was lying all along. She couldn't understand which was the worst pain. Daniel, however, was persistent as a bee in search of honey. He knew Gabriella's story, the sadness she carried. He knew of Ricardo's death and of the emotional fortress she had built with her tears, but Daniel's persistence was different. It was a delicate care, a presence without pressure. He seemed to respect Gabriella's mourning, but at the same time, subtly encouraged her to look beyond the pain. He didn't want to invade her life, but rather to enter her heart. While Gabriella struggled with her own pain, another shadow moved in the shadows. Ricardo's brother, a bitter man full of hate, watched everything from afar. He had always loved Gabriella in secret, with a possessive and unhealthy love. Ricardo's death filled him with blind fury, and the possibility of Gabriella finding a new love was like an insult, an affront to his brother's memory. He would not allow another man to have her. Never, he swore, revenge. His plan was meticulous. He watched everything, waiting for the opportune moment to act. The arrival of Daniel, with his insistent kindness, ignited an even greater flame of hate in his heart. A hate that fed on jealousy, desire, and revenge. Gabriella, unaware of the approaching danger, still tried to understand the anonymous note. Was it a setup, an attempt to destroy her peace? Or was it the raw truth revealing a dark secret from her past? She needed answers. The truth, like an invisible thread, connected her to the past and the future. She needed to find out who was behind that photograph. The search for the truth would lead her down tortuous paths, where love, revenge, and lies danced in a whirlwind. And Daniel, with his kind smile, would be there, ready to help her, even if he risked ending up being an obstacle in the path of another's revenge. The first step she would take now would define the future of everyone involved. An uncertain future, full of suspense, mystery, and a giant dose of love. It was a dark, starry night, but the darkness of the night was nothing compared to the darkness that inhabited Gabriella's heart. A year had passed since Ricardo, the love of her life, had left, leaving an immense void in her world. The old house, full of memories, seemed to suffocate her, each corner whispering the name of her beloved. Gabriella felt trapped in a labyrinth of sadness, with no way out, but then a noise. A slight scratching at the front door. Gabriella's heart pounded like a wild colt. She hesitated, fear paralyzing her for a moment, but curiosity overcame her. With hesitant steps, she approached, her body tense, her senses sharpened. There it was, a white envelope, discreetly left at the entrance. It was thin and delicate, almost invisible in the twilight. It was an anonymous note, the first message she had received since Ricardo's death. A chill ran down her spine. She felt a bad premonition, as if a cold shadow enveloped her. With trembling hands, Gabriella opened the envelope. Inside, a photograph. Ricardo was there, smiling, radiant. But beside him, a woman Gabriella had never seen before. Beautiful, elegant, with a smile that hurt Gabriella like a stab in the chest. A smile that said, "I know a secret, and it's more important than you." It was such a real, such a life-filled smile that Gabriella felt the world collapse on her. The tears she had suppressed so much began to flow, hot and painful, burning her face. Had Ricardo deceived her? Had he truly loved her? Doubts tormented her like venomous snakes coiling around her heart. That image was a bomb, capable of destroying everything she had built in her memory. Gabriella felt betrayed, deceived, and the pain of loss mixed with a bitter disappointment. She felt suffocated, as if she were drowning in a sea of sadness and uncertainty. In the midst of her desolation, a ray of light, albeit uncertain, emerged. Daniel. He had been watching Gabriella, leaving small flowers at her door as a delicate gesture, a subtle demonstration of his affection. He watched her pain from afar like a silent guardian angel. But Gabriella was closed to the world, her heart frozen by the ice of sadness. The pain of Ricardo's betrayal created an insurmountable barrier between her and any possibility of new love. Daniel seemed to understand this. He didn't pressure her, respecting her mourning. He was simply there, a discreet presence, a beacon in a stormy night. Daniel's persistence, however, was a bulwark against the storm that ravaged Gabriella's heart. It was a timid but constant flame, trying to melt the ice that enveloped her heart. While Gabriella struggled against her emotions, another storm approached. Ricardo's brother, full of resentment and an obsessive and unhealthy love for Gabriella, watched everything from afar, silent and menacing. For him, the possibility of Gabriella finding happiness with another man was unacceptable. His brother's death had generated in his heart a corrosive hate, a desire for revenge that consumed him. He saw Daniel as an intruder, an enemy who threatened Ricardo's memory and his own unhealthy obsession with Gabriella, and he planned to do everything to end this new happiness that was forming on the widow's horizon, using her pain and her secrets as weapons. Gabriella, devastated by the photo, tried to understand the meaning of the note. Was it a trap? An attempt to destroy her peace and her new possibility of happiness? Or was it the raw truth, revealing a secret that would forever change her life? The truth was there, somewhere, hidden between the lines, waiting to be revealed. She needed to discover the truth, unravel the mystery behind that photograph. But the search for the truth would lead her to dark places, where lies, revenge, and love intertwined in a dangerous game. And in the midst of this confusion, Daniel, with his kindness and his persistence, would he be an ally or an obstacle in her path? The future was uncertain, full of suspense, mystery, and, who knows, a new possibility of love, even involved in a web of lies and revenge. It was a dark, starry night, the same night Ricardo loved so much. Gabriella, the widow, felt the weight of loneliness like a cold cloak on her shoulders. A year had passed since Ricardo's departure, a year of silence, of silent tears, and a heart closed to the world. The old house, every corner, every shadow, pulsed with the memory of him. Every object was a memory, a fragment of a happy past that now hurt like an open wound. Gabriella felt like a tree stripped of its leaves, dry and lonely in the middle of a desert. But then a noise, a slight scratching at the door. Her heart fluttered, a bird trapped in a cage. Cautiously, she approached, guided by a mixture of fear and curiosity. Under the dim light of a lamppost, she saw a white envelope, thin and discreet, resting on the entrance step. An anonymous note. Nobody wrote to her, never. Trembling, Gabriella opened the envelope, a photograph. Ricardo, the radiant and lively smile she loved so much, but beside him, an unknown woman, stunning, with a smile as bright as the midday sun. A smile that seemed to plunge a dagger into Gabriella's heart. The image struck her like lightning, a punch in the stomach, leaving her breathless. That smile, so radiant and sincere, was it directed at another woman? Had Ricardo deceived her? The doubt, like a venomous snake, enveloped her, suffocating her with its venom. The tears she had suppressed so much exploded in relentless torrents, burning her face. The pain of loss merged with a bitter disappointment, an emptiness that seemed to extend to infinity. In the midst of her desolation, a gentle and kind presence made itself felt. Daniel, with eyes as mysterious as the night sky and a smile that promised comfort, watched her from afar. He had left small flowers at her door, delicate gestures of admiration. But Gabriella was closed, her heart locked with 7 keys. The pain of the recent betrayal and the vivid memory of Ricardo kept her distant from any possibility of affection. Daniel, however, was like a stubborn flame that refused to be extinguished. He knew her pain, her loneliness. He respected her mourning, but at the same time, he subtly, gently, tried to show her the possibility of a new dawn. He didn't force the issue, he didn't pressure her. He simply was there, a beacon of hope on a stormy night. While Gabriella struggled in her inner turmoil, another figure moved in the shadows, Ricardo's brother, a man consumed by bitterness and revenge. He loved Gabriella, but his love was possessive, unhealthy, distorted. Ricardo's death consumed him, fueling a blind and implacable hatred. He would not allow another man to take his brother's place in Gabriella's heart. Daniel's arrival maddened him with rage, igniting in him a flame of hatred capable of setting everything in his path on fire. He watched everything, patiently, calculating the perfect moment to act. His revenge would be sweet, brutal, and definitive. Gabriella, still shaken, tried to decipher the enigma of the anonymous note. Was it a trap? An attempt to destroy her peace? Or the raw truth revealing a dark secret from Ricardo's past? She needed the answers. She needed the truth. But the search for the truth would lead her down a dangerous path, full of traps and secrets. Daniel was there, by her side, offering her support, but would he be a faithful ally, or an obstacle in her path? The future was a blank canvas, full of uncertain possibilities, where love, revenge, and lies danced in a whirlwind. A whirlwind that could destroy Gabriella and everything she loved. Gabriella's decision, her next choice, would define her destiny and that of everyone around her on a dark, starry night, under the veil of mystery and the weight of a buried secret, waiting for the time to come to light. Determined to discover the truth, Gabriella decided to investigate the woman in the photograph. She went to Ricardo's office, a place she avoided at all costs, and there, among papers and old documents, she found a hidden diary. The letters were small, the handwriting elegant, and each word seemed like poison. It was Ricardo's diary. The first pages spoke of his love for Gabriella, his marriage, his life together, but some lines, hidden between the oldest pages, revealed a secret relationship, a name, Isabella, and next to the name an address, the same address as the woman in the photograph. Gabriella felt a lump in her throat. Ricardo, her Ricardo, had led a double life, but it wasn't the end of the mystery. While Gabriella was reading, she heard a noise from the door. It was Daniel with a worried look. But behind him, hidden in the shadows, was Ricardo's brother, a look of hatred in his eyes, with a gun in his hand. He would not allow the truth about Ricardo to come to light. The shot was fired,